And everybody is in this establishment is saved. I'm not saying that they're saved because my awareness. They literally tell me everybody in this facility is saved. I didn't pick. I didn't pick it. I I said, Father, I need to. This is a thorn in my side or whatever about this my teeth or whatever. I need some surgical work. I asked you to send me towards where I need to go, and this number popped up, and it was a referral through my doctor. Actually, I believe. Yeah, I think it was a referral from a doctor. It's amazing how it worked. I went from the hospital and they gave me a number to a doctor to do my follow ups on. That doctor gave me a number to a dentist. No, 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 no. I went to the doctor, I went to the dentist to get my teeth cleaned. And they referred me to the surgical dentist. I don't know, orthodontics, whatever. I don't know. But anyway, and they was the facility. So I go in there and they telling me everybody here is saved. And it's like I have never seen love like this in my life. And all I was saying prior to all this is that, Father, I didn't want to die the way that I was. So I say that to say he gives me this proposition about giving him my worst for his very best. And so I'm there and I'm going through this process and I come home. I have my sister, I have my niece, excuse me, but I was void. All I wanted to do was go back to God by any means. And I didn't want anything or anyone to stand in my way. After those events of going to that doctor and the dentist and everything, and experiencing what I experienced in the hospital, I already want. It's like I was born again. Not like I was born again. My spirit was raised from the dead. In other words, all I wanted to do was be around was the presence of God. So that's where the journey has been from this point. Now, have the enemy tried to get me to go back to pornography? Yeah. And did he succeed? Yeah, he did. But see, here's the kill shot for the enemy. Okay, for the individual that says like I'm trying to walk right with God and I missed the mark and whatever. Do you know why you missed the mark? A person said like I was weak. Okay, all right. You missed the mark for this very reason. Is because you didn't know the severity of what was there. In other words, the enemy was like up undercover inside an area. In other words, the Holy Spirit haven't got to the place inside your soul to flash a flashlight on it. He's not going to do it without your permission. That means you have to be ready. In other words, to be ready, that means that you have to spend some time with the Father. You have spent some time with the Father, where y'all in dialogue and y'all having a conversation, intimacy, whatever, and God can actually impute to you the words to say, and you will start to say things that will actually put you in a position to be ready or in readiness. Why the readiness is for the Father to come to root up, pull up any tree, any root that He did not plant. So, like I said, when the enemy, when the tripping up during this time, like I say, when I came home, of course, you got your old life waiting for you. That you know how you had it before. I was involved with a lot of women. All that was waiting for me. But I was like, no, Jesus, I want you. I want this new life. And up the first time when I left God, I was afraid to get to this place. Right when I'm finna the very place I'm finna describe now. The place, like in '05, when I walked away from God, was like to be fully committed to God. In other words, to leave the natural, the five physical senses of all that I know, the adding, subtracting, the reading, the right, all that. Who my family, all leave all that and to go to the supernatural, which is all spirit, which is going to a place I know not of, which is unseen. There's no proof that is there. Only thing I'm going by is that I believe that I hear God. All right? That's what the supernatural is, that you believe that you hear God and you follow that voice. All right? And of course, that voice will always be to do what? To embrace love, to be a servant to love. So that means that you'll always be in servanthood to anybody that you come across. So the the enemy will come in to try to bring a rift in that flow because he don't want you in unison with God. Because if you are in unison with God, you are His Lord. That means He can't rule you anymore. That means you have authority over Him. So if he once the enemy gets the reason why the enemy wants to rift there, so he can get us in isolation from God. That isolation will be by his leadership, by his voice. A person just doesn't leave God on their own. They leave God by a voice. See, this is where a person let's go here, and I don't know where we're gonna go after that. But let's go back to the garden and with Adam and Eve in the garden. Let me ask you guys a question. How many voices were there in the garden be, during Adam and Eve's time? How many voices were there? Would you say that there was one? Would you say there was 10? Would you say there was three? Or would you say that there was two? The answer is it was only two voices. And if you said that, you are correct. There was only two voices in the garden. There was God Almighty's voice, which was all love, perfect, without sin, without no weakness, right? And then there was the serpent's voice, which was Satan. There was only two voices. The one voice said, Adam, you can freely eat of the garden, but do not eat of the tree of the knowledge of the good and evil, because the moment that you do, the day that you do, you shall surely die. Day means moment, time. But of course, there was no time like an hour and season because there was no death. But it was time because, in fact, it was the day. It was that point of day. Anyway, okay. So then there was God, or then there was Satan to oppose that voice. To say that, does God not know that you will become a God in your own eyes once you eat that tree? Two voices. So you got two voices in the garden. Now, with us now, let's say like if you're walking with God and then all of a sudden you stumble and fall. The only way that you stumble and you fail, or you missed the mark, or you fell short, or you went outside the will of God, or you did something that God told you not to do. The only reason why you did that is because there was another voice that gave you that opposition. Not at the moment that you missed the mark, but it has been talking to you for quite some time. The voice had that the serpent has been talking to Eve for quite some time. See, the enemy is strategic because he has to be strategic because he's not all knowing. He can't be every place at once, so he has to be calculated. But the only thing about his calculation is that he's not perfect. He always has a flaw. Long as he is in oneness with fear, he always has a flaw. He has a weakness. There's a remedy to fear. It's called faith. Faith looks for fear, to put fear in its place. If you look at the Bible, the scriptures that said Jesus came here to the earth, or came to the earth for one reason, and that's to put all the works of Satan to rest. He came here for one reason, and that's that very reason. So, with that being said, when it comes to the point of you stumbling, you're missing a mark of love or walking in love, and not towards walking in love those who that you want to love because they loved you. That's conditional. With God, it becomes unconditional. That means everybody gets your love equally. For the believer, this is pressing towards the mark. We are trying to become that because that's all Jesus was. He made sure everybody got his love equally. Now, a person may say, like, well, he didn't give it to the Pharisees and them. The reason why he didn't give it to the Pharisees and them, they was objective to him. They couldn't receive him. So he can't make you receive something that you don't want to have. He's a gentleman. What I mean by he's a gentleman, that he works in patience. How patience is going to work without kindness? In other words, you will become aggressive. You become assertive. You become all these different things because you live with what? In fear. That's why you get the one who wants to be served. That's why that's why the enemy will make a person a god in their own eyes, and that's how he'll make a god in their own eyes, is that they will live up under the fear if they don't get what they want. They're not of value. So that goes down with that. But anyway, going back to what God was about the proposition that he gave me, you know, he asked me for my very worst, and I said I just want to be with you. And like once again, I'm being honest with him. This is the start of the relationship, and 2017. This is the start of the relationship again. That I have never been without women, and I have never been without pornography. So, of course, as disgusting as it is, that the reason why it's so disgusting because it's perverted. It's not whole. It's not holy. It's perverse. So some people have, is in other words, it's squalor. It's filth. It's less than me. It's less than me. So if a person tolerates pornography and being promiscuous or having several sexual partners, in other words, you're willing to lay down with anybody, whatever, and you come to know them through being around them, and then it happens, or you buy it, or you trick the person to doing it. That's why it's called tricking, because you give them a proposition to give up themselves for it. It's a trick. So if you're willing to do it that way, that means you're willing to allow whatever's inside of them to come inside you. The moment that the man enters the woman, and the moment that the woman allows the man to enter her, they become one and the same. So this is where you get those moments where you can't forget about the person after you've been with the person. They come across your mind because the enemy have access to you, particularly when you have done it outside the will of God, which was throughout fornication, or the enemy have said like, okay, you want that, you can have it, whatever, by any means, you get it, you have the intercourse, whatever. Now he's inside of you. Now he's going to torment you with not having a moment's peace. He's always going to remind you of that. Now the situation is going to may turn to you getting what you want, but it won't sustain because there's no joy, right? Or it will become disastrous. Any which way it go, the enemy is going to torment you with those two situations, those two outcomes. He's gonna torment you with those. Okay, so the person that wants a free peace of mind don't want to be in that torment. So if they're wise, or if they're have any, not gonna say wise, but if they're knowledgeable of Jesus, they will run. That's why when Jesus came to the earth, that's why many people followed him, because he had a separation from what they had. If a lot of people was sick, a lot of people was brokenhearted, a lot of people was dealing with serious illnesses, and different conditions and so forth. They wanted to be separated from their misery. But Jesus ultimately wanted to separate our soul to be free. If your soul is to be free, you will never have to be in misery ever again. That's why he came to destroy all the works of Satan, so we could have that portal, that access to what we would call the kingdom of heaven. That's how the kingdom of heaven is. It's without fear. It's without torment. It's without pain or any acknowledgement that you could be hurt, harmed, or endangered. So Jesus came to do what? To bring us the kingdom of heaven, which in other words, he came to set our soul free. So how, according to the book of Jude 1 and 20, he want our soul to prosper and be in good health. Or, so how would our soul prosper is when it's in health, is when it's healthy. So if the soul can't have peace, if the soul can't have joy, if the soul can't have love, if the soul can't have kindness, if the soul can't have any of these things, it will not prosper. It will crumble to health. In other words, it will crumble in destruction. It would implode. This is what happened to me. Stress. All right. Let's say, for example, how does the mental illness thing works? The mental illness works this way. If a person has a stable mind, and for mental illness to have effect, something of harm has to come inside. Something of a threat to that wholeness. If the person is without hurt, harm, or danger to their soul, they have no acknowledgement of that. Something will have to come to make a rift of that, to be like a spider web to spread, right? So all it needs is one act to come inside the soul, and therefore that soul, it would grant that one act the ability, the capacity, the capability to spread. In other words, to bring more of one and the same of itself, and it would cover the soul in such torment that it can't breathe, that it cracks. So this is why a person goes to artificial substances to escape. A person may say, I'm about to have this drink because I'm having a bad day. I need to relax. I need a peace of mind. I need to get away from that. Look what they, okay. No one is really drinking to celebrate in liberation. They're drinking or they're smoking or they are inhaling to try to obtain liberation. If a person is stressed out, they go get high or they go have a drink. Why? Because they're trying to release what they're dealing with, the torment. The world, the reality that they're in, they're trying to release from it, separate from it, but they're trying to become into a reality where it doesn't have any of that. In other words, they're trying to take a vacation from themselves. The only thing about that substance is not permanent because that substance doesn't get to the root of the problem. That's the only way something can be permanent if it uproot the prior or previous root and it reestablish a new root of that new foundation. So this is what Jesus can do. This is what the Holy Spirit does. This is what the Father, when the Father says this in the scriptures, that the Father will go inside the soul and he would dig up any root, any fruit, or any tree or any root that he did not plant. What did the Father plant? Righteousness, joy, and peace, right? He planted that. Or we could say love, power, and a sound mind. Righteousness, joy, and peace will embrace love, power, and a sound mind. You're not going to have love, power, and a sound mind without righteousness, joy, and peace. See how that works? So if that person wants to be liberated from what they're dealing with and they want to become this new creation, they're going to have to surrender to the portal. One or two ways you're going to do it. You could do it the easy way or the hard way. But nonetheless, you're going to do it. The hard way is that you're going to gain all the substances of the earth. You could become the most dominant, prominent person there is. But in the midst of it, you still won't be able to enjoy it. Or you could do it the easy way. You could just like, Jesus, I want to know you in the way that to know you that you are alive, only in the way that I will know that you are alive. And he will introduce himself to you. He will give you an assignment, and it's going to be on the lines of humility. Just like the rich young ruler. Okay, two people came to Jesus for the kingdom of heaven. There was Nicodemus, who was, I think, was a prominent ruler. I don't know if he was. I know he was of the synagogue. I don't know if he was a rabbi or he was a Pharisee or so forth. But he was a prominent ruler, and he came to Jesus for the kingdom of heaven. And then you have the rich young ruler, which we talked about. The rich young ruler came to him in one situation. Nicodemus came into him in another situation. Nicodemus' situation was, I want to know the kingdom of heaven. That means I'm not in a position. I'm past the position of the rich young ruler, but he didn't say that. It's just where they were. The rich young ruler was honoring the Ten Commandments, right? He'd been doing this since he was a child, but at the same time, his heart was committed to a reality or to a world that was away from God. So that's like an oxymoron type deal. So you want to be with God, but you're committed to something that's keeping you away from God. So Jesus come with the antidote. Jesus come with the remedy. You get rid of the thing that's separating you from God, and you will enter into the kingdom of heaven. You can see it because you do the Ten Commandments, but you can't enter it because this very thing is keeping you separated. So Nicodemus came in another way. Nicodemus, like I said, was a ruler. I don't know if he was, like I said, if he was a Pharisees or a scribe, or if he was a priest or so forth. But he came with honor with God. So he's asking Jesus for eternal life. So Jesus comes to him in a different perspective. If I may say this, you know how disgusting that you have, disgusting. You know how perverted you have to be to watch pornography? And I'm not talking to a person who's watching, I'm talking to just coming from a person who spent over 20 years of watching it. You know how disgusting and perverted you have to be, perverse you have to be to watch it, how disturbed you have to be in your mind. That means something had to come in there. As a child, a kid, let's say for example, a kid is innocent until their soul has had access to hurt, harm, or danger. This is why television plays a part to a child, because if they can adapt to their environment, it become what acceptable. And then not just that, the voice of what they have accepted can talk to them and lead them to do different things. Right. This is how a child becomes destructive. When once upon a time it was innocent. So music, videos, all this stuff paints a picture, and but the purpose of painting the picture is for the enemy to have a voice. Excuse me, having a voice to be able to mislead them away from the innocence. So if you got a child that's innocent and they never been hurt, harmed, or dangered, whatever, all they need is an event. Now this is where you come where unfortunately you have a situation where a child was molested. They were mistreated by their parents and so forth. That's tragedy. That is a tragedy. I'm not taking light of anything else, but that is a tragedy. And now that child know it can be hurt, harm, or danger, and now they're going to be in fear. Look, in other words, looking over their shoulder when it could happen again. And that's all the enemy needs to lead them down a path of a separation from God. In other words, a path that they would no longer hear God. So they will literally be fighting against the gates of hell. If this is you, there's a remedy for that. And we're going to break that. The beginning of the video sort of broke it down, but we'll go back to that. So you got this child. All of a sudden, innocence is broken. Now they know they can be hurt, harm, or danger. So they're going to walk one or two ways. They're going to walk with the grain or walk against the grain. And what I mean by that, the world of evil until good can find them. Now remember, they are in hell and psychologically in their mind. Their soul is no longer sober. Now God came to give us what? Love, power, and a sound mind. Now their mind is no longer stable. It's disrupted. It's a rift. It know it can have something that it once never had. They know they could be harmed in a way. In other words, peace can be disrupted. Torment can be allowed to come in. So now if a child is walking that way, you basically if a parent is unaware spiritually, like I said, if the parent is serving the enemy, ignorantly serving the enemy, the child is going to be unprotected. They're going to protect the child in a way that that has, let me see, that they know, basically how they were taught or what they see, right? So if that parent doesn't become born again, in other words, love becomes their God, they will lead their child in a way, or they will be led of a child in a way that will be down a destructive path. Now, say like if you have that situation and a child goes and get into all types of disruptive things, they end up going to I don't want to say going to jail, but they go into juvie. They go to different places, these rehabilitation things, whatever, all that. Or you get a situation that a child was molested, and the child, they from the moment they was molested, they didn't want to do any harm to anybody. Now the child that was molested, like I said, it's two roads. You could be with the grain or against the grain. That you got two different two different examples of children, or that was exposed to this hurt, harm, and danger. One may keep it, and the other one may expose it, may get rid of it. All right, the one that keep it is going to be a living hell. Like I said, their life will be living hell because they constantly are on the run. But the one who can expose it is the one who wants to be liberated. So what the enemy would do, he would have the child, don't you, through the person who caused the harm, or the enemy will talk to the enemy. Or if the enemy will talk to the child directly because he have access, you bet not tell anybody. If you tell anybody, it will come in the form of a threat. Even if you come to them gently by saying, like, if you tell somebody, they won't believe you, they won't love you, he will come in a way of keeping them inside that prison. Because if they escape that thought, they are liberated from his captivity. So that's why he would try to keep them silent. Such as myself, I was molested, whatever. And the point it was to keep it silent. But the more that you keep it silent, the more you're going to be on the run. See, I didn't, there's, like I said, there's two ways you can handle it. You can, where here's another two ways. Where within the midst of those two ways, you got two options. You can allow it to take the best of you, or you're going to serve it. I chose to serve it. Not knowingly, of course, ignorantly, but out of fear, because the threat came, if you tell, this is what's going to happen to you. So I kept it, and that became my misery inside my head, inside my soul. Now my soul is not at peace because of that reason. Now, for a person who may have been in either one of these situations, right? Let's say it this way. You could be every bit of my age at 40 plus or less, and you want liberation. You want like the freedom to your soul. Now, this is the reason why I believe God brought me back from the dead. Now, remember what I said. When I was going through that situation, I lost my mind. I literally lost everything in my head. Forget about bills and everything else. None of that matters. None of that matters if you don't have a peace of mind. And it's not a peace of mind that you need medication. It's a peace of mind that you don't know if you're sitting up straight. You don't know, as far as like if you walking straight. You don't remember what your mother looked like. The very person that you love the most, you don't remember what they look like. Everything that you know is completely, it's like having a whole bunch of papers on shelves and somebody comes and knock it all off. You're still the shelves, but you are in disarray. You are unorganized. You are everywhere. So that's how my life was. From 2017 to 2018. No, I would say to 2019. Let's say to 2019. It was like that. I was battling that. But here's the thing. Well, my advantage was, like I said, you got two ways to deal it. Now, before the stroke, I was on a man on the hill. Now, I was taught the man that gets all the women is the man. He's the guy. He has power. So I got a lot of women. I wasn't trying to trick any one of them, but I wasn't in my right mind. So how can I give them any love? Even though parts of love came out of them, I may have given them things that they have never had before. I'm not talking about possessions. I'm talking about spiritual nuggets or spiritual attributes. I may have given them joy. I may have given them kindness. I may have given them things, but I couldn't sustain it because I was still serving fear. So until that root of fear that was planted back from the molestation, until that was dug up, I was going to continue to serve fear. No matter if I said I was with Jesus or not, I was still going to serve fear until the Father personally has to come in and dig up that root and destroy it. So if a person says like, you different ever since you went to the hospital, this is the reason why I'm different. It's not that I'm choosing to be different. The Spirit of God came inside of me and it changed my life. Please somebody help me to explain this. I mean, if all you've known was women and pornography, which is mean women, right? Because I'm not looking for no man and nothing like the pornography, nothing like that. But even with that, the enemy will try to tempt you to do things with that because it's all perversion, right? It's all away from love. So it's there to keep you to be a God in your own eyes, to make your own rules and everything else. And that will actually do what to your mind? It will bring forth torment to your mind. You didn't create God. God created you. So you were made to serve him. So if you was made to serve him, that was mean you was made to be in oneness with him. Serving is not being like not having free will. Serving is like serving God or serving love is mean being one of the same. Y'all equals. See, the enemy, Satan's kingdom is a totally different deal. It's the opposite of that. So anyway, if you're not walking in that love, whatever with God, whatever, and you're not in oneness with her, you are against it, and that goes inside your soul. Now your soul becomes, it starts to deteriorate, it starts to break down. All of a sudden, one problem that is simple as, you know, you're brushing your teeth, and then your toothbrush come out of your hand and goes on the ground. All of a sudden, that's a problem. It's like, why is this happening to me? That's, we would say, that's frustration, that's anger, that's torment. Those are all different. Those are all different thoughts that's not supposed to be inside your head, not supposed to be inside your soul. Because Jesus, when God made us, He gave us love, power, and a sound mind. That mind was made to be sober, and the only way the mind is going to be sober is that there's only one voice that can talk to it. If you got multiple voices talking to you at once, then therefore you're gonna go crazy. So this is the reason why when we took that brief segment about going to the garden, there was only two voices. Is the soul was only made for one voice. So if you're serving God, you got one voice that you're following. So the enemy wants to come in to disrupt that voice. If you listen to that voice, you walk away from God's voice, and you only become knowing one voice. So that's why the enemy wants to come in and implement hurt to a child, to an adult, whatever, through any situation. A person may say, like, well, then what's going on with all the ways of the world? You know, I mean, for all that, with the killings and everything, the slavery, the lynching, and all everything and so forth. Every ethnic group have experienced slavery. Let's say it that way. Every ethnic group have experienced slavery or some form of the opposition of love, because the enemy have came in with that opposition. And so the whole point of that was to bring a rift between them and God. That's the whole point of it. That's the whole point of hurt. Is once the enemy is inside, the only way he can get inside your soul is through trickery or through deception. So the trickery is, far as like, through force. The deception is that you're willing to give it because you think you're getting something greater. All right. So the trickery is through force. He's trying to force you his way in. So a loved one will hurt you. He would not saying it will. This is what he would try to use if he can. If you can use, if a loved one is listening to him, he will use that loved one, because the more likely they're listening to him because they got hurt inside of them. See how it works? You can't listen to Satan unless Satan has a part of you. So hurt has to come inside of them. All it takes is, I'll give you this example like this. Let's say like you got two brothers, right? Or two friends, whatever how you want to put it. One household has a mother and a father. The other household doesn't have a mother and a father. So the one without the mother and the father looks at the friend with the mother and the father, and he say, "Wow!" He immediately noticed that he's missing something. Now he could be in a situation where the mother or the father is giving him 100% devotion and love, but the enemy shows him a picture of what he don't have. So the enemy, that starts